Thank you for coming this evening. My name is Hanson Duane. I'll be your docent this evening for this fine celebration of the old masters, of which we have quite a collection here. We'll be giving you a little tour around. Naturally, I won't be able to do all of them, but we will do a representative sampling. We'd like to start right here with Singer Sargent, right here with Madame X. Virginie Avenue avec nos Gatro, I believe that's close to correct. A Paris society woman, John Singer Sargent, wanted to paint her to honor her great beauty and probably also to advance his career. She was a very popular society woman. He got carried away, of course, and painted her little strap there off her shoulder. This was a scandal, a gigantic scandal. I mean, what was going on in that studio after all, right? She must have been a bit of a tramp to allow herself to be painted so dishabille, as they say. But Singer Sargent did paint the spaghetti strap back on, so no harm was done. Of course, this is how spaghetti straps in school can get you in trouble, ladies.
You chased me down, John, the wife of the banker, a young socialite, a professional beauty. You know what that means? It means I use my looks to advance myself. You, Mr. Sargent, thought I might help your career. You were a man of prodigious talent. I accepted your offer. You, as a fellow expat, might help me. How boring to sit for you. I had more important engagements, plus my 4-year-old daughter, my mother, house guests, and a full staff to tend to. You were a drag and took way too long. How many studies of Madame Pierre Gautreau do you need? Good grief, Mr. Sargent. Then you said that I was the hopelessly lazy one? Why then did you paint my strap off my shoulder? One more struggle and the lady would be free. Really, the strap was ornamental, the dress never would have fallen. You made a mistake. It was vulgar. I demanded my name be taken off the painting. Now I am known as Madame X, and you had to repaint the strap.
Let's move on. Andrew Wyeth, of course, was a watercolor and tempera artist. He was the father of the American realist Jamie Wyeth, and of course the fifth and last son of the famous illustrator N.C. Wyeth. He was tutored by his father at home. He was deemed too sickly to go to school. Here is a painting, of course, of Siri, who was the daughter of his neighbor, George Erickson. This is one of 10, or actually many paintings over 10 years that he painted of Siri. Here, I believe he has captured her childlike, naked innocence.
You said, and I quote, that your models represented the fading and deterioration of something, and I was a real explosion of life. I was 14 years old.
Right, now we're going to move all of you, believe it or not, over here to this side of the room, standing in front of the Matildas, facing this direction. Start here with Gustav Klimt, of course, the father of the Art Nouveau movement in Austria. As you can see, Klimt loved to paint women in all their erotic, sensual glory. He would adorn the paintings with gold and silver and jewels. This particular painting is One of two he did of Judith with the head of Holofernes. Holofernes, of course, being the Assyrian general who besieged her hometown of Bethulia. Judith was quite a striking woman, and so she dressed herself to the nines, got access to his war tent, and cut off his head. She was quite literally dressed to kill. Let that be a lesson to you, gentlemen. Over here, if you can see it from your angle, we have another of Gustav Klimt's paintings, The Family. Gustav Klimt was quite a family man, having fathered 14 children, 3 of which he did acknowledge were his. Of course, one of them died in childbirth, but he did write to the other 2 occasionally. He was a very busy artist. How much time would he have?
Oh, yes, it's me, the Austrian Mona Lisa. Not one, but 2 paintings. Thank you, Gustav Klimt. Or should I say, thank you to my industrialist husband, Ferdinand. He commissioned them. And I became an icon, hosting salons with Strauss and the prince himself. More brass than block.
Over here, Augustus John's Mary Keane. Moving on.
Wait, do not walk right by this. What? Do not. All that's ever really been said of me was that I was the model, the mistress, and the heir of the artist Michael Smith. Now, that is all true. Now, Michael Smith was really good friends with Augustus John, and both of them were really good friends with Dylan Thomas. Heard of him? Right. All right, now Dylan Thomas wrote a letter to Augustus John about me, which I think is a fairly good description. Let me read it to you. Dear Augustus, 5 March 1945. What a lovely thing to receive. I'm so very glad you liked the poem. Dylan Thomas. Mary Keane is at the Black Lion. That's a hotel. Baffling a good many by her frequent use of a certain one-syllable word, and her disinclination to agree with anything spoken by anyone, from the remarks about the weather to the price of pigs. That's me. I have no idea how long Mary's staying. She's trying to persuade Matthew to come down, but doubts if the lion would suit him. She herself grumbles at it a lot, but seems to like it anyway. And the lioners, for their part, have grown used to that small, wicked word on the lips of a woman. And woman was capitalized. I'll live with that.
Picasso, of course, the femme fleur, the woman as flower. Picasso, of course, was born in Spain, spent most of his time in Paris. He was considered one of the most prolific painters. He was also a poet, a ceramicist, a sculptor, a set designer, a playwright, a poet. He was influenced greatly by Matisse, who urged him to try different medium. This painting here was of his girlfriend. I think we can tell what portion of his girlfriend he most appreciated by this painting.
My breasts. That's all you see. I think one of the reasons why living with Picasso became unbearable is that they had no privacy, and that is impossible. If you aren't a goldfish, no one wants to live in an aquarium. The truth is, I was the only one who ever left him. He said that if I left, I would be headed straight for the desert. Oh, was he wrong? He sabotaged my career, that is true, but then he died, and I sold his paintings. I am so much more in my own right. I paint the way some people journal, and there is the value. The future will choose the pages it prefers. Wake up! Discover something you would not have discovered without me. Though I'm sure that within 3 months of my leaving, he would have fitted another face onto my role. You have to admit that most women who've done something with their lives have been disliked by almost everyone.
Willem de Kooning. Willem de Kooning was, of course, the member of the New York School of Abstract Artists. He painted only one series of figurative paintings, which he called The Woman. These are two of those paintings, right here. Actually, they began with a cutout from a magazine, a cigarette ad of lips, beautiful, voluptuous red lips. He cut this out and put it on a canvas, looked at it, and then sort of painted a woman around it, and then eventually took the lips off and painted that, and then painted them and repainted them, did 6 of them in all. And these two, of course, are one of them. You can see right here that they are somewhat aggressive in nature. Let me get this correct, however. Harold Rosenberg, the critic, said the series was significant through its historical context about the post-World War II history and the American feminist movement. Feminists at the time considered them violent and aggressive and did not appreciate them. Of course, this was bad press. But another critic, Clement Greenberg, stepped in and to save the day by praising them and comparing them to the works of Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, Henri, and Picasso.
What the actual hell, Bill? Women irritate you? No doubt. Rumor has it that that is me, your mother.
I thought that was me. Wait, I thought that was me.
Says a lot more about you than it does about us.
La Traviata by Braque. Not much to say about that one, really.
Opinions steeped in self-righteousness. Was it worth it? I can do this every night.
We're going to start right over here with Edouard Manet. This very famous painting of Olympia. Edouard Manet, his parents desired him to go into the Navy, but he only wanted to paint. He studied all the great masters, traveled the world. He copied many of the paintings in the Louvre. He painted along with many of the other famous artists of the day, also influenced by Cézanne, also influenced by Matisse, and well, not Matisse, he's later, Monet, Manet, etc. Influenced him in this fine painting. You can see here the brush strokes, very earnest and honest brush strokes that he has here in this fine painting. Yes, and he excelled in presenting Paris life as it really was, devoid of any idealism and romanticism. Here, speaking of unidealistic, is a painting of a real woman in a real Paris situation. This earned him his deserved place in history.
A fresh take of femininity. That's what was said. A fresh take on femininity. I was a very popular model at the time. Exhausting. After I posed for this one, I took art classes and painted self-portraits. A fresh take on femininity. My paintings were in the Paris salons, and I was inducted into the French Society of Artists. I made my living as an artist for years, and yet I was known as the model in the most famous nude of the 19th century. I was a fresh take on femininity. Not my paintings, but his.
I too was a popular art model, mainly for Edouard Manet, Children of the Tuileries Garden, La Negresse, and Portrait of Laure. Une belle très négresse. But mainly I was known as the maid, the black maid in Olympia. I'm the one holding a bouquet of flowers. All eyes are on her, but there is someone else in the painting.
St. Agatha's right here. This painting in the corner, if you can see it. She was a 15-year-old girl when the Roman prefect Quintianus decided to court her. He thought he would be able to overcome her vow of chastity. He was wrong. And so he had her tortured. And she later died in prison. Perhaps if she dressed down a little less makeup.
They tortured me and cut off my breasts for my beliefs. I was miraculously healed. Now I'm the patron saint of breast cancer patients.
Here, right here, Mr. Rossetti, a British painter, who painted this fine painting of Venus Verticordia, Venus, the changer of hearts. In 114 BC, 3 Vestal virgins were condemned to death, usually at the time by whipping to death or stoning to death, for having transgressed with Roman knights. A shrine was built to Venus Verticordia to warn women to guard their chastity, to guard it. You can see in this painting here, she's holding the spear to guard against assaults on her virtue. The apple, of course, representing the temptation of Adam. The roses and the honeysuckles at the bottom, also symbols of desire that you need to ward yourself against. All in all, it is a warning to all women to guard their chastity. Because as we know, men cannot control themselves. So you don't want to end up like the Vestal virgins, now do you? No.
This is interesting. Changer of Hearts was the only nude that Rossetti painted. I was a cook that he saw on the street. I was quite handsome, he said, exceptionally beautiful, glorious bosom. That is my body in the painting, but it's not my face. That was his model. It's Alexa White. It was. Talk about invisible.
Here we have the Chevalier. Less said about her, the better.
Oh, what is this? I was born way too soon. Charlotte, Genevieve, Lisa, Augusta, Andrea, Timothy Guillaume, or Charlotte, Genevieve, Louis, Auguste, André, Timothy Guillaume, to Beaumont, depending upon the day. A bit. No man. Or a woman. Marie Antoinette's dressmaker provided my clothes, and dearie, I looked fabulous. There was no one like me. I fenced before royalty, spied for my country, owed money everywhere. I attended balls at French court as both a man and a woman. Wonder who might show up. I seduced everyone. Dearie, I mean everyone. This painting showed me as I was. And what a scandal! Man, woman, vous ne savez pas.
Basile's painting, right here, with peonies. Basile, as a young man, was very impressed by the works of Eugene Delacroix and decided he wanted to be a painter. But his parents were against that. They wanted him to attend medical school. So he made a deal with them. He would go to Paris and he would study medicine and art. They agreed. He went to Paris, began opening a studio, began painting and attending medical school when he could. He was very generous. He had a rich family, so he helped other artists out with space and with materials. And he flunked his medical exam. But he had a grand time and worked with many of the great painters, Pissarro, Sisley. When the Franco-Prussian War broke out, being very patriotic, he joined the army. His commander was killed. So he took command and ran his troops up over a hill, was shot 2 times, and died. Ironically, had he gone to medical school, he might have gotten drafted into the ambulance corps, and he might have survived. Pays to listen to your parents sometimes.
Please do not confuse me for Manet's lore, which I am often compared to. I wonder why. This is one of 2 paintings where I'm holding an abundance of flowers. This one was considered more palatable because the other had the person staring at the viewer. I wonder why that was so disconcerting.
Right here, we have a painting of Jadwiga, King Jadwiga. Right here, this is Kresch's fine painting. Jadwiga was an aristocrat, royalty, and she was set to marry William, the Prince of Austria, and become his queen. But the aristocrats in Poland did not like William, so they made her king instead. She never married William.
It is too confusing. Yes, I was elected King of Poland after my older sister was elected King of Hungary, separating Hungary from Poland, and it was a mess. I was 9. I was forced to marry Jogaila to unite with Lithuania and change the balance of power in Europe. But I was king. Even though women weren't allowed to rule in the 13th century, I was king. And actually, I was a very good one. I established colleges, I promoted religion to the pagans, set anything before me, and I could mediate, and my people loved me. My death in childbirth allowed my husband to assert control over my land of Poland. Wouldn't you know it?
Finally, our last painting this evening, Paul Gauguin, right here. Paul Gauguin, who was, of course, the post-impressionist. He was a very successful stockbroker in Paris before the market crashed, and then he was forced to rely on the funds of his wife, which, of course, no man can really endure. So he did the right thing and left the family to pursue an artistic career. He painted with many of the great artists of the day. He also moved to Tahiti, mainly because he wanted to experience the primitive. He could live very cheaply there. But of course, before that, he'd visited Gauguin in the south of France in 1888. They didn't get along so well. So then he did go off to Tahiti. In Tahiti, he appreciated the lax marriage laws and his status in society. Marriage at the time, of course, meant divorce meant that you would just simply take her items out of your hut and you were divorced. And his status afforded him great privilege, so he appreciated that. He met several of the young girls there and appreciated their beauty. He painted many of them, many young women, young girls, lots of women, lots of girls.
Only living to sing and make love? Seriously, Paul? I mean, what did you think of me? Your muse, that's all you thought of me? You only wanted me for this?
He did marry her.
Sure, my family said yes, but I was only 13. I mean, what does that make you, Paul?
Thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate you coming for tonight so early, getting out and getting over here. We love that. We have a gift shop over there, of course. You have to exit through it. But we would also like to thank, of course.
I have some things that.
This woman hanging around a lot. She'd like to say a few words to you.
I didn't do all this things. I originally came up with the idea, maybe we could have a docent, maybe it could be fun, and then John created this whole character out of the docent, and he wrote his script, and he's so supportive, and he's kind of my support engine, so thank you, John. Right, Kate is multi-talented, who also acted. Where are you, Kate? The missing women responses. We originally had a problem with the docent being taken too seriously, so then Kate came along, and she had this idea in her head already beforehand. So thank you for writing such great dialogue and
It was a pleasure.
bringing it all to life and acting and everything. I really appreciate what you've done and to expand this whole thing.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Heather? Where are you, Heather? Heather. Such an amazing job. And we have Andrea. Where's Andrea? Bill here, who's my... and Jamie Crawford Kidd, who was our tea lady. Melanie Ransom, who helped us with a lot of the costumes. Where are you, Melanie? Yuri Saremby, our son, and Michael Getting, his father. He's very, what's the word? Diverse in your presentation. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Also, who tolerated all this, and I've run around circles in all the. There's so much, and there's so much, so many dimensions to this show. Jennifer, come here. Sorry, you deserve it. If she'd known how picky I was, or how much I wanted to include, or and all the staff who helped to hang the show. And I want to thank TCC for making this space available for learning and fun and community and inclusivity, which is so important. And back to you with the gift shop.
Right.
The gift shop is men make money from women's bodies, but if women try to make money from their own bodies, we're out of control and we're chastised. So John is going to sell you books and calendars if you want them.
And I'll pocket the money.